It is a quiet hour of the night. The apartment is entirely still, save for the steady, unbothered rhythm of the rain against the glass. And yet, there is an invisible, profoundly exhausting friction happening right here at this desk. You know exactly what you need to do. The task is sitting right in front of you. You understand its importance, and a large part of you might even desperately want to just get it over with. But somehow, bridging the gap between understanding the task conceptually and physically moving your hands to initiate the very first step feels entirely, inexplicably impossible. This is a deeply isolating, frustrating experience. When you sit alone in the dark, staring at a notebook or a glowing screen, actively willing yourself to move, and your body simply refuses to comply, the immediate, automatic reflex is harsh self-judgment. Society has heavily conditioned us to label this friction as a moral failure, as laziness, a lack of discipline. But laziness is a choice to rest, and usually it is a choice that brings relief and feels good. This does not feel good. This is task paralysis. And what you are experiencing right now is not a failure of your character. It is the lived reality of executive dysfunction, a highly specific, measurable physiological event unfolding within the architecture of your nervous system. Clinical neuroscience demonstrates that task comprehension and task execution rely on fundamentally different neural pathways. You are not lacking willpower. The neurobiological bridge for initiation is simply offline. To understand why you cannot just push through this barrier, we first have to look at what the brain is actually trying to process in this exact moment. What we colloquially call a simple task, paying a routine bill or organizing a daily schedule, is rarely perceived as simple to the brain. Every task is essentially a complex labyrinth of abstract steps, micro-decisions, and unresolved variables. According to decades of cognitive science research, human working memory capacity is strictly limited. When a task contains hidden density, those abstract steps begin to accumulate, forming a remarkably heavy cognitive load. As you sit here hesitating, your brain is rapidly attempting to map out every possible outcome and every potential mistake all at once, rapidly depleting your mental reserves and resulting in profound executive fatigue. Furthermore, neurobiological models of motivation show that your dopamine baseline dictates how the brain calculates effort versus reward. When you are chronically exhausted, baseline dopamine drops, and the brain literally calculates that the energetic cost of starting is dangerously high compared to the payoff. Mental weight translates directly into a bodily response. Your posture drops. Your breathing becomes restricted. The system is beginning to fracture under the invisible weight. When that cognitive accumulation reaches a critical, unsustainable threshold, the body responds automatically. It does not ask for conscious permission. The autonomic nervous system simply takes over the controls. The harder you try to force yourself forward into action, the tighter and more rigid the physical resistance becomes. It feels exactly like a jammed mechanical gear, trembling under intense static friction, but entirely unable to turn. In the fields of behavioral psychology and stress physiology, this is understood as a biological freeze response. We typically associate stress with the sympathetic nervous system, the classic fight-or-flight reaction characterized by racing heart rates and sharp spikes in circulating cortisol levels. But what happens when the system is already exhausted? Under the lens of burnout physiology, when the nervous system calculates that an energetic demand is overwhelmingly high, and determines that neither fighting nor fleeing is a viable option for survival, it bypasses sympathetic panic and drops into a primitive immobilization state, a total systemic shutdown. You are not failing to start. Your physiological system is actively working very hard to keep you completely paralyzed, to protect you from what it calculates as an impossible, dangerous demand. But why does the human brain perceive an unanswered email or a mundane household chore as a literal physical danger? Research into the brain's threat detection circuitry, pioneered by neuroscientists like Joseph Ledoux, reveals a crucial mechanism. The amygdala, the brain's primary alarm center, does not always easily distinguish between an abstract psychological stressor and a physical predator in the room. When a baseline of chronic stress meets acute cognitive overload, the amygdala severely miscalculates. It observes the heavy load of a multi-step task, misinterprets it as an acute survival threat, and immediately sounds the alarm. Once that internal alarm is pulled, the brain's functional architecture shifts aggressively. According to research by Dr. Amy Arnsten at Yale, high emotional arousal triggers a neurochemical flood that actively impairs the prefrontal cortex. This highly evolved part of the brain is responsible for planning, organization, and, crucially, task initiation. The very mechanism you need to navigate the paper labyrinth is downregulated, taken entirely offline by your own protective neurochemistry. This is the underlying neuroscience of task paralysis. The physical inability to start is not laziness. Your brain is convinced it is saving your life right here at the desk. So how do we unfreeze a system that is entirely convinced it is in mortal danger? The answer is almost never to try harder or to internally yell at yourself to focus. That internal hostility only reinforces the amygdala's calculation that a threat is indeed present. Instead, the goal is to gently bypass the cognitive loop entirely. If the brain is trapped in a threat response, we have to provide physical, undeniable proof of environmental safety to the body. One low-effort option that clinical practice often supports is simply breaking the visual field. Slowly standing up and turning away from the desk. Pressing a hand against the cool, smooth surface of the window glass. Listening to the steady, grounding sound of the rain. This approach relies on interoceptive regulation. By introducing a calming, tactile anchor, we can slowly signal the nervous system to shift out of the defensive freeze and toward a ventral vagal state, the biological condition of safety, regulation, and calm engagement. The recalibration is rarely instant. It happens slowly in fractions of an inch. A slight softening of a tense shoulder, a deeper, unobstructed breath. The task remains unfinished on the desk. It will still be there tomorrow. But tonight, simply unhooking from the freeze and proving to your nervous system that you are safe is enough.